a company called Cyborg. She's the one who came up with a model where the government was heavily involved in growth of private enterprise. So they literally supported some Cyborg, big corporations, which dominate the Chinese world.
Of course, huyu wa chini anaitwa Lee Kuan Yew. I'm sure you all know him from Singapore. If you study the reason why, even as I talk about Lee Kuan Yew, the reason to squeeze a little bit. And as I said in the opening up out there, in case there are people who are still outside, because I see many are still outside, who may want to have a better coverage than how we are in terms of squeezing, I have nothing else I'm doing today other than to be your client, and therefore anyone from any other media house who have not gotten space, I'll have time to repeat whatever it is that I will have said before, or I'm saying now. I also want to thank you because you have been also very pivotal through the process that we have had in the position
But I'm saying so because these things are also very important. All of us, we are not the ones who
Do you mean
here.
my English isn't very good?
Yes. I'm sorry.
How often do you practice speaking?
I have anyone to practice with?
He started something that was called an export-led economy. That's the end of that man over there. He attended all the meetings. And before that time, the export of Korea grew by 364 times. Use the drugs you know about Samsung, like the phones most of us are using, Hyundai, a company called Cyborgs. He's the one who came up with a model where the government was heavily involved in growth of private enterprise. So they literally supported some Cyborgs, big corporations, which dominate the Chinese world.
Of course, you wa chini anaitwa Lee Kuan Yew. I'm sure we all know him from Singapore. If you start, the reason why, even as I talk about Lee Kuan Yew's country was the same level as Kenya when they were gaining independence. Even the odds were more. But he transformed the economy of so that the things we've been reading and the things we have been seeing, I can clarify a few of them and also give my voice on it. And therefore, without wanting to be diplomatic, I also know that is what you came for, because you knew if it was about politics, I would have called you somewhere else. And therefore, I'll only talk about that matter. And I also know that there are expectations of people on what we should say, when, and how. I get messages every day on what I should do and how I should do it. And it is not the appropriate time today for me to talk about those other things. And I am saying it in good faith because that is what we had planned to do. And I have only clarified because in the time I've been a politician, I know there is what you say, but there is also work to be done in terms of coverage. There is also what you may want to report. And that is given because that is the work of a media house. So I've clarified that so that I'll be open to a few questions afterwards. But I just highly request, I am here as a Kenyan. I speak when I want to speak. We interacted in many forums. We know each other person's character in terms of where they need to invoke courage, where they need to invoke whatever they need to say. And I know for sure, I'm not shy to say anything that I feel I need to say. So whatever I may leave unsaid today is basically based on the fact that the reason I called you is the one I'll talk about. And as I start, I first of all want to be grateful to all of you. Be very grateful. My brothers and sisters. To be honest, when we call myself personally for the chance I have had the space we have here to serve the Kenyan people in the position of the chairman of the Budget and Appropriations Committee in the National Assembly. But the numbers as you know and have interacted, that has been my have made us or have necessitated us to squeeze a little. And that is work we did with a lot of dedication, and I am grateful for that opportunity. I am also very grateful to have interacted with many people and the vice chair who make us 27. I am truly grateful for that chance. That chance of serving as the chairman of the Budget and Appropriations Committee made me understand many things that I understood before. It made me know the workings of government in terms of its levels, its arms, departments and agencies of government, and how they work. And therefore, as much as it was work, it was also a profound learning experience that I am truly grateful for. I am also thankful for the fact that I had trained as an economist some many years back in KU. And when I got the chance to serve as the chairman of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, I had the first-hand learning of how macroeconomic parameters relate with each other. I was able to first-hand experience the things I was learning, and therefore it was also a continuation of a learning experience, and especially in regards to many macroeconomic factors, how inflation is affected by interest rates, how interest rates affect private enterprise, and many other economic parameters that we hear, but they are also far-reaching in terms of how we live, and they are also far-reaching in terms of what our country becomes. And by the way, out of that experience, in the year 2023, I realized I also needed to upgrade a little bit, because I singularly found that our country, yes, have many challenges, but the overarching challenge that we face as a country are economic challenges in nature. And given the chance I was serving in as the chairman of Budget Committee, I decided to also go back to school. I actually started pursuing 2 master's degrees together. One in KU, Master of Economics in Public Policy, and the other one in the University of Nairobi, that is Masters of Arts in Economics. And I've been pursuing those from 2023, attending class physically, where I needed to attend physically, and those who offer online, also attending class online, and by the way, as a student, not as an MP. And I decided to do that because I also wanted to deepen my knowledge in the economic platform. And the more the reason, I made it my duty to listen in terms of attendance, and also to participate in any other participatory issues that I needed to do as a student. And gratefully, I am actually done with coursework. I am now doing the projects, both of them together. And by the grace of God, I may graduate this year. I am not talking about myself when I talk about going back to school. It is basically because the motivation of pursuing those 2 actually came out of quest to know better, so that the decision I continued to make are optimal, objective, and especially based on things that then would make our country move forward, especially given the pivotal position which I was serving in. And if you look at this table around here, these two shelves is actually classwork. All this you see around here, these are issues around classwork. And I was doing it again, and I'm repeating, because I thought, and I still believe even now, that it is important that even as we serve in our specific capacities, that we continue to also develop ourselves, to sharpen ourselves, so that we can be making more efficient decisions as leaders. So in a nutshell, I have been very, very, I should be very grateful, and I have been very honored by the Kenyan people to have served in that capacity, and especially when our country really needed us to do what we needed to do. Just as snapshot of, so that you understand where I'm coming from. This position is very involving, and I am sure many of you have covered us before. Sometimes sleeping in this office, leaving here very early in the morning. Not just myself, also the members of the members we were serving with. But it was also an experience also to learn and know Kenya. There are things we used to do called public participation, where we would choose, we started with 12, we ended up with 20 counties every year, where we would allocate some retro money, actually 100 million per county, and we would then go there to ask Kenyans what they would prefer that we prioritize. The last one, I was privileged to actually travel all the way to Madeira and interact with the people of Madeira, and I am glad that I have had many, many of such experiences to also relate what we do on the table and how that is far-reaching and how that affects the lives of the Kenyan people. For example, there when we went, the leaders were very categorical. There was a teachers, a TTC, Teachers Training College, and a KMTC, which they told us the entire 100 million to give to those two. Because when we go all out to do those things, we specifically look at the impact of how those projects would work. And also by giving preference to what the leadership and the people themselves request us to, or were requesting us to do. Having said that, also for perspective's sake, and allow me to say it because it is how it is. At some point we got too busy, because you remember when you are here in the chairman of budget, you also have to go all out there and talk about the projects you are doing, but also on the other side, you are also doing work with CDF. You have colleagues whom you are interacting with as you work around CDF, and therefore, at some point, I also got too busy, as you could remember. Anyone launching a Masomobora in their place, I would go, and those kind of things. And what I'm trying to say is that at some point I got too busy. And my brothers and sisters, I'm telling you these things not more as a politician, but also as a human being. That for the last 2.5 years, I actually went to my rural place, our rural home. I went there for the first time in the last 2.5 years in September or October or November of last year, thereabout, in the last quarter of last year. There is the time last year I visited my sister who lives not very far from Nairobi, actually in Thika. So I went there and we were chatting, and I could read her body language. She was thinking, kwani huyu jamaa amepotea ama ni nini? Because I could hardly have gotten time before to actually also do such a thing that looks very small, but is also humane to do. So what I'm trying to say is that it has been intense, it has been busy, and I am grateful for that chance, because even in that intensity, it has also been a profound learning experience. I also want to take this opportunity to wish the current chairman of the Budget and Appropriations Committee and the leadership of that committee all the best. I have sat there, I know it is an intense position. It requires you to work very hard, sometimes to the neglect of your constituents. And therefore, I would only wish the current chairman all the best as he steers the committee forward. Because after all is said and done, whatever he is doing, the success you'll get is a success for all Kenyans. And therefore, there are things we say because we are politicians, but there are also things we say because we are human beings. As a human being, I wish him all the best. And I want to say that I am grateful for the chance I have had. Maybe to clarify a few things which you may have in your mind, or possibly I can give you that chance to ask them. Maybe I'll wind up by saying that I'm also very grateful. Let me reserve that for you to ask, because I am here, I will ask, or I will answer. Let me also take this chance to thank the people of Kiharu constituency. Because to become the chairman of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, the prelude to that is for you to be an MP first. And I don't want to chest thump, but I'm just saying it in humility. I am among the few MPs who, in the last elections, I was elected without producing a single poster. I'm not saying that as bravado. Neither am I saying it to prove who I am. I'm saying it in humility that I'm very, very grateful to the people of Kiharu for that honor, to have served them as a member of parliament. This is my second term, and especially given that there are many landed people in our constituency, but they have given me that honor and privilege to serve as the budget and to serve as their MP, or to serve as our MP as a constituency, and that has opened or had opened the room for me to serve as the chairman of the Budget and Appropriations Committee. I also want to thank the people of Kenya. What I know is that the positions we hold, and talking about myself, I hold it with a lot of regard. And as I serve the people of Kenya, I want to be grateful because they have also been very supportive. Those who support us by saying something kind, those who correct us because we need to be corrected, and that is the forte that we must always accommodate. Those who criticize, we need also to be criticized so that we can also pull up our socks and do things better. Holistically, I want to thank them. And also for prayers. Maybe many of you, I'll surprise you, but I am one of those politicians, and maybe I'm preempting some of the questions that you may have, who look at life maybe in a slightly different way than maybe majority. I am one person who knows for sure that who I am as NDINDI Nyoro, I only become because God gives me the power. And therefore, I don't find it within myself to chest thump, to accuse. I only hold the position I have. I try my best to do good out of it. And therefore, I have said that because there are people who we have never interacted, but they pray for us. Praying for us, sometimes we get wisdom that we would not have gotten before, relying on our own selves. And therefore, I am grateful to all Kenyans for the input, because whatever we achieve or whatever we have achieved it out of all that concerted effort. Maybe only highlighting one thing among the many we have been able to do, and it's just an experience of the things we used to do when I was serving in that capacity. You have to balance among many things, because what happens in resource allocation is that you only need to be optimal. Where can you put money that then will yield most of the outcome? And at some point in the chase for resources and allocations, there was the issue of the JSS teachers, whom you know very well. By then they were called moguls. And I was feeling very compelled then as the chairman of budget that whatever else we are doing, and that was around last time when the issue about resources was very pronounced out of the issues that happened in July. But out of the things we did, among the few that I'm very, very proud of, is the confirmation of the JSS teachers to permanent and pensionable terms. It gives me a lot of satisfaction, and especially given that I took it as my burden to make sure that that was done. But I'm not claiming to have done it by myself. It is teamwork among the committee members, teamwork among the other consultations that you need to do as the chairman of budget, which I am very truly grateful for. I want to stop there and pick some questions. I only request, I am a Kenyan, as I said when I was starting. I know, because I don't want to pretend that you as a journalist, there is what you really want me to say today. But I also feel it is important that the things you have said are equally important for the country, and especially the transition, given the position I held. I used to invite you, you used to cover. I felt it is beholden upon me to also call you when it is time to pack. So if you might, or if I can indulge you, because I'm still here and you are still here, anything else, there is so much time to talk about it. So thank you very much. I open the floor.
In that spirit, last week, Ruby from Nation. Last week
You are?
Ruby from Nation.
Okay.
Last week we saw from Parliament they were saying that you used to be a position as chair to disproportionately allocate much resources to your constituents of Kiharu. What could be your response regarding those accusations by fellow MPs in the Parliament?
Okay. Maybe we can take another one, then I answer, then we take others.
My name is Omolo from West TV. Mine was similar to that, but now that my colleague has asked, maybe as a politician, why do you think you are replaced from that position?
Okay. Yes, my brother.
Yes,
You are?
Moses.
Moses from Star. Oh, Moses. Ah, yes, I know you.
You know the country is expectant. When I say that, I know what I mean.
Yes.
Kindly just give us a hint on this expectation.
Okay. We can take one lady. I'll come to you, then we answer. I'm here. Yes, my sister.
Naitwa Millicent kutoka KBC. Umezungumzia mafanikio ambayo umefanya kama mwenyekiti, labda ni yapi ambayo unaweza kusema kama kutekeleza kikamilifu, na pia kuna hili swala la public participation bado ni donda sugu kabisa, halijaweza kushughulikiwa kikamilifu, labda hata wakati unapoondoka ni kitu ambacho unaweza kusema.
Let me answer this so that I don't forget, and then we can answer the others. Dubi from Nation, you've asked about the comments that were made in Parliament last week. I would just implore upon everyone, because I'm not the first person to hold this position, respectively so. You can do an analysis for the past many years that this position has existed, and then try to see and compare for yourself, because many times it's not good to talk about yourself because you are likely to be subjective. To be objective, the data is out there, just check. However, on the same, every politician have their own brand of politics. Myself, I do not answer evil with evil. Neither do I answer insults with insults. Basically, we are all different. And I don't want to purport to know better what I am not. And therefore, I am okay as a leader. You cannot continue being provoked and then you dance to the tune. And I also want to say that anger and hatred is too heavy a burden for any leader to carry. And you only carry anger and those kind of other negative emotions to the advantage of the distractors. So it is important then, in politics you draw your line, you know this is the kind of politics I want to play, draw that line, whatever it is, follow through. Secondly, in terms of Wamalwa West TV, on why, you've asked me a very difficult question on why I was repressed. I also don't know. And I am saying it in good faith. I didn't come here to accuse anyone today, or I only came to set the record straight. No one in the leadership of our coalition, from whichever position, has ever called me in regards to the position, in regards to what I need to do better, in regards to what I need to change, in regards to things that needed to be done in a different manner. It's very good for me to put it into record because, as I said, I was holding this position knowing that I was serving Kenyans. So I am also answerable. And in sincerity say, there is no one who has ever called me, decision makers of our coalition, to say anything around this. I read in newspapers about myself the same way you do. And in terms of this position, that's what I mean. And that's the truth. Moses of Star. You know, Moses is a political journalist. I know him. So he's asking me that I need to say something around politics. Moses, I have your number and you have mine. And I want to assure you that when I need to talk politics, I'll call you. And I'm saying it respectfully. I only think that even this is also very important. And situko tu hapa Kenya. I mean, I'm not going anywhere, and Moses is still around. I know your job is not threatened in any way, so we are still in Star. So I'll be glad to also talk about that at the fullness of time. The other thing about Miriam, sorry, Millicent KBC. There are many things she asked about. Yes, I talked about one thing we did. What about the many others that are challenges that remains to be done? Of course, there are many. There are many things that we are work in progress for us as a country. And referencing to the position I was serving, the issue of public debt is a major challenge. The issue of stored projects is a major challenge. So there are many things that are a work in progress. There are other very important things like confirmation of other people who work for government, like the UHC staff. We had allocated some money before, but there is still some work to be done in terms of more allocation. And so that even those brothers and sisters can also have a chance to be compensated for the service they offer our country. And the other one,
Was on public participation.
you've talked about public participation. I agree. Kenya is a robust country in terms of hearing your voice, but there is also work to be done in terms of incorporating all citizens, and especially in allocation of resources. There are things that I don't know whether there is a need to it. One of those things is public participation, because it's a continuous process which has to keep on improving, which has to keep on done better, because there is no perfection to it, but we can always polish it and do better about it. We can take another route. Let's talk.
Let me start. If you continued serving as the chair for budget, my name is Stephen Leto, Citizen TV. If you continued serving as the budget chair, will you allocate in the 2025-2026 financial year 72 billion shillings for chapati?
Let me take a few more. Yes, my brother. That cannot be answered alone.
My name is Daniel Sare from Daily Trends. What do you regret as a national leader in terms of what you were doing, the post that you were holding, and because you've spoken about what you achieved, what did you not achieve that you wanted to achieve?
Let me answer those two, because I want to be precise. Leto, I don't know where you got that math from, and I don't know whether you're asking about Kiharu, because we do that in our day schools. We offer that in our day schools once a month. Is it a Kiharu question or a national question? Since I am not chair now, let me not hypothesize on what I would do if I was one now. But Murisikia hiyo sorry Aretho. Leto, you want to box me in a corner? I'll answer you that in camera. Because I also don't want to deflect from this. It's a good question, but I also don't want to wonder so far. I'll give you that answer, Leto. And I'll also give you a calculator so that you do the right calculations. Daniel from Daily Trades. Any regrets? What you could have done better? As I said when I was answering Millicent, budget making as it is in management of leadership is always work in progress. There is no perfection to it. That's why even the most developed countries keep on having new leaders. Otherwise, they could have finished the work and say, Sasa tumemaliza, there are no more leaders to be needed. So there is always it's always work in progress to reach where we are headed. He also asked about the regrets. What I believe myself is that I am the sum total of all my experiences, bad and good. And if I want to remove any bad experience from my CV, that is, as a human being, then I am deserting to be who I am. Therefore, very rarely will I have regrets. What I'll have are lessons to do things better. Not about only doing, to treat people better. And if at some point you feel that you've been wronged, I always believe it's an opportunity for you to know how to treat people better when you are at a vantage point. And therefore, no much regret. Yes, my brother.
My name is Mike from KD47. Now, kwa vile kuna masuala kadhaa umeguzia pale kuhusiana na uhusiano wako na wakazi wako wa Kiharu. Ulichaguliwa moja kwa moja kwa sababu haukuwa na vibango vile kuguza. Vile vile ukasema kwamba hakuna yeyote aliyekupigia simu kuhusiana na kazi yako na uhusiano wako wa kikazi, na labda uhusiano wako na Rais William Ruto umekuwa vipi hivi karibuni, na labda kabla ya kubanduliwa afisini kwa aliyekuwa naibu rais, uhusiano wako na Rais William Ruto ni upi hadi kufikia sasa? Je, amesema na wewe muda wote ule? Umesema na aliyekuwa naibu rais popote kule? Uhusiano wako vile vile na aliyekuwa naibu rais ni upi hadi kufikia sasa?
Mheshimiwa, swali langu ni jina langu ni Ronnie Regan kutoka idhaa ya Moreni.
Your name is?
Ronnie Regan.
Ronnie. Okay.
Swali langu kwako ni kuhusiana na utendakazi na mchakato kazi wako katika eneo bunge la Kiharu. Binafsi tulitembea huko na tukafanya taarifa kuhusiana na kuimarisha elimu, ndio maana tulipatia makala ya elimu bora na si bora elimu. Hivi sasa umengatuliwa na kuondolewa katika wadhifa ambao umekuwa unashikilia, na hizi tetesi ambazo zimekuwa zikisemekana na viongozi kwamba mgao wako ulielekezwa katika eneo bunge lako, kwa sasa hivi umeondolewa. Je, ujenzi wa shule utaendelea, madarasa yataendelea, kabla zitaendelea na wanafunzi wataendelea kula, au sasa bajeti vile vile itakuwa imefinywa, una uwezo zaidi?
Okay. Kidogo tu, the reason you see me I'm studying chache so that I don't also get lost. Let me answer the two very specifically. Mike, you asked about the relationship with our leaders. The position I held is a consultative position in terms of before a decision is made, there has to be a lot of consultations. But as I said before, because I also don't want to discuss personalities today, the position or the answer I gave before, I think it answers many things. That I have not had any conversation directly or on phone with any leader of our coalition in regards to the position I used to hold. And I think if you look at it, it answers many things also, which I also don't want to go into. In terms of the relationship with other leaders, I respect everyone. I mean, I'm one of those people who believe there's no person who becomes a leader by just being fetched from wherever. There is always a process they go through. Because I am one, I know. And therefore, in terms of you've asked the relationship between the president and the former deputy president, the position I hold is that I respect every leader. And I could have things I need to talk about. I could have reservations on decisions made, but I don't think it has been within my role to talk about those things, especially in public. The other thing in that question is that maybe for clarity's sake, the last discussion I had with the president of the country, the last political discussion, either a chat or a discussion, as it were, was before October of last year. And I would not want, and you permit me to do that, not to discuss any further about any leader, because as you're all aware, I stopped serving in my position. It's barely a week. I also need to understand many things before I talk, because I believe as a leader, I mean, I lead people. There are people who look up to us as leaders. And therefore, even when you see that I am not answering some questions, it's not because I can't answer them. I believe you have covered me previously, and you know for sure that, respectively, in this world I only fear God. So whatever I need to say, I have no reservation of saying. But also, we are given wisdom to say when to say, how to say it. And I believe we are here in Kenya. We'll keep interacting. if there is more to be said, if there is more to be clarified, we are allowed. Ronnie, he has been to Kiharu, by the way, to cover. Achana na taoja hii maji ya dimu kidogo ndio mkiuliza swali kwa ikuwe sawa. Ronnie, you've been to Kiharu, and I am grateful. And by the way, I want to request anyone who would want to come to Kiharu to look at what you've been doing. We are more than glad to host you. We don't do these things, especially of hosting people, because we want to blow our own trumpet. We do these things because I am convinced that if leaders started competing on the basis of what they are doing, the country would become better wholesomely. If our competition as leaders is deliverables, and we compete about who is doing what in terms of tangibles and development, is a very good discussion that you would have as MPs, for example, because we hold CDF, and that is the reason why we would be glad even to host you. We have hosted, I think, 4 delegations of my colleagues in Kiharu on benchmarking exercises. We actually don't call them benchmarking. We call them peer-to-peer learning, because I also learn from them. I am not a non-knowing, and I also learn from my colleagues a great deal. And in terms of, like the video you see around me wearing some goldish shirt, I'm sure you have seen it. That was on 4th of January last year. It is not a recent video. And we have been doing those things primarily because I think at some point I was not doing the right thing, and at some point I learned. And therefore I feel that if I share my experiences with anyone, and I also learn from them, the management of public resources becomes better. If Kiharu improves, any other Mvita improves, if Ebakasi East improves, if any other constituency improves, then Kenya holistically becomes a better place. And I want to underline, the leaders who come to Kiharu, they don't come to learn because I am all-knowing and I know everything. I also learn from them. And that is why I also go to their constituencies to learn what they do. And I also know majority are trying their best. Specifically to answer you now, is that the projects you saw in Kiharu, majority of it that we have done in our learning institutions, I actually did in my first term. In my first term, I was a member of a committee called Regional Integration. I think I have answered you. So I'll still call you next year. I hope we'll still be doing better, hopefully. Yes.
Majibu Kisao from K24. Kuna swali mwenzangu alikuwa ameuliza kwa kifupi tu kuhusiana na wale wabunge ambao walikuwa wanakejeli kwa labda kujilipizia pesa kuwatumikia wakazi wa Kiharu. Labda utawaambia nini? Tena niuliza alipouliza, alafu waibie siri kwa sababu si mara moja si mara mbili umeteuliwa kama mbunge bora.
Okay. Yes, my brother.
Mheshimiwa, I know you are doing campaign during 2022 and you have given Kenyan a lot of promise. For the now,
your name again?
Aden Ibrahim from KBC. For now, for the 2.5 years now we are there. Where do you rate in terms of development across the country? Because you are sharing that that committee in that terms of development and with all the promise that you have given Kenya. Where do you rate this administration in the last 2.5 years? Have they achieved their goal? Have they achieved their promise in the last 2 years?
Okay.
Where do you rate?
Okay. Let me answer those two. I'll now try to be brief. One, my brother, your name? Majibu. Maswali yani anauliza swali. Majibu, my brother from K24.
Yes.
you've asked about Keharo. I am available to share our experiences in Keharo. More than available. I mean, I have had sessions with my colleagues, and I have explained to them basically what we do is optimization, labor-based implementation of projects. It saves us the profit that would have been made by the contractor. It also saves us a lot of cost. It guarantees quality also. And because it's something that needs a lot of time to explain, I am sure I'll give you some time. And yes, ameuliza pia wale wabunge walisema mambo bugeni last week, nitasema nini? Nitasema, uniruhusu niseme kwa kimombo. As I said before, politics is up and downs. And politics is mutually exclusive. Because the things we chase for are the same. So sometimes, for a position to be created, one person has to forgo theirs. And therefore, it's always a chase. So, you also have to define yourself as a leader, the things you want to engage in. And respectively, as I say so, if I ask you as my brothers and sisters who are here, I ask you what Kibaki told anyone in the year 2008 when he was president, you'd hardly remember. You'd have to go to your files to check what Kibaki said. But if you travel through or on Thika Road Superhighway, you don't need to remember anything Kibaki said. You see it with your own eyes. So me, I believe that, yes, we have to talk as leaders because you have to explain where you are going, where you've come from. I mean, you cannot lock yourself in a room. You have to talk. But in many instances, I find that what is far-reaching and what is permanent and what is objective is more what you do than what you say. And therefore, in terms of what was said and whoever said it last week in Parliament, I would not be provoked to answer evil with evil, neither will I be provoked to answer an insult with insult. Time answers many things. Time answers so many things. I mean, if I allege, for example, if I come here and allege Kajim here is actually not from Kenya, and I say, no, I have evidence, he's actually not from Kenya. Only time. He may not need to say much. The truth and the facts have a way of outliving words. And I hold no grudge against anyone. It is too burdensome to carry any hatred. It is too heavy to carry any ill will against anyone. I mean, you can only do that to the advantage of the people who calculate to make you wander from your path. Oh, sorry, Aden, and I think I'm taking too long to answer questions. Aden, allow me today, you've asked me to rate the government. You know I've been chairman of budget. Definitely, I am likely to be subjective. In terms of rating of government, allow me not to answer that now because I just left this position barely a week from today. I am likely to be subjective. But I think as leaders from wherever we are, from MCA level to what I hold to every other level, there is always work to be done. And from my corner, hopefully I'll do my best to chip in into that development so that entirely the country becomes better. But I also know, Aden, that, like all of you, I am a Kenyan, I live here, so I see what there is. So, so Kenyans are better judges than ourselves as leaders. Yes.
The last one is, what's your take on the solution?
Your name is?
My name is Jeff from Live Nation 254.
Jeff?
Jeff Zilla, Live Nation 254.
Okay.
What's your take on the agreement between the opposition, Raila Odinga and President, will this agreement solve the issue of Gen Zs? Because the other time Gen Zs went to the streets and they wanted some support from the government. Will this help? Will this agreement help Gen Zs?
Jeff, I think, but respectively though, usinibebe vibaya, those are the areas that I don't want to go today, because I don't want to distort the message for today. And since I'm around, Jeff, I'll give you audience. You know now I'm not as busy as I used to do or to be.
Maybe the last one on budget.
Yes.
The role you played in the last election.
Your name?
I am from Ruto.
Okay.
Given the role you played in the last election, resulted in you being given that position. Now that you have been removed without even being involved by the leadership of Kenya, do you feel betrayed by the leadership?
Thank you very much, Aemba. Yours is hapo katikati because it's both political but budget based. So that one I have to say something about. Kaemba, I am a human being. So when you see us politicians, we are also people. And it is I think that answer it suffices.
So maybe the last one now.
Yeah.
We've seen leaders when after the impeachment they consult. Raila Odinga was also moving around the country to consult after he failed in the AUC. Are we also going to see NDINDI NYORO consulting also?
Stephen Leto, I have been busy as a politician, but I have also enjoyed a phase of quietness. I mean, you know that. When you are in the dance floor, politically speaking, you can't know even when it is raining outside, when the wind is blowing. You can't know when there is a storm. When you are in the dance floor, there is loud music and you are busy. This is an experience I've shared actually, Reto, with some of my colleagues. That sometimes as a leader, it is also important that you depart the dance floor temporarily, you go to the balcony, and also you learn. Learning may not mean you are consulting to outdo anyone. Learning may actually mean the dancing styles changed, but you are still fixed on the past ones. Learning may actually also not come by political conversations. It may come with just social interactions. So my is in tandem with the expectations of the people of Kenya. Any other question? So maybe nikimaliza, mimi niwashukuru sana, and I am available as I said before, especially in regards to Keharo. Anyone who would want to come there, you are free. And in any other fora that may be important for me to clarify some of the issues, I'll be available. Only that today I've restricted myself into the agenda of the day so that we can have a clear messaging on it.
Can I request that you give us before you brief?
Okay. Then if the others, I can request we don't move so that we don't disrupt much.
Yes.
I'll take just a few minutes because okay. Can I go ahead?
maybe I propose they just ask the 2 or 3 questions that you address them.
Oh, you can ask the questions. Kana urenda nyambe njuge kaundu? Okay.
Even as you say it,
Okay.
Number 2, Sonia Omodio Okiaria, a little bit different from, for example, Sonia campaign immediately. What could have
changed
brought about the difference? Na tulio haule Tonio no era suggest modo utareta kwa hiyo roadika, which an indication that you are not part of government.
Ale leke sasa emo nitakusafsiria baadaye ama tutafanya aje? Ama niendelee tu? Forgive me because I have to do this. I may not know many languages, but permit me to say one word in the language that I was brought up talking. Juge umuthi tu ni nyonire ni wega. Juge o kaundu na koti kanene. Wa mbere juge ni ngucokeria andu a Kenya ngatho. Na koguo juge kanya kau ndirari na kona ndira ng'ang'ana hari ngira hotire na njokiria andũ arĩa tũrarutaga nao wĩra ngatho tondũ wĩra ũyũ ndũngĩrutwo mũndũ wiki na wa mũico nĩ ngwenda njoe kanya gaka nyendithĩrie ũrĩa ũroire kanya kau wega ndemwe na chairman wa budget ndona nĩ wega njĩtane heane ndũmĩrĩri ĩyo ũmũthĩ. Wa mũico mniruhusu tu niseme hii ikiwa ya mwisho, mambo ni mengi tutasema baadaye. Juge ndĩracokia ciũria kĩrĩa woria na irie kũrĩtio mbere na gĩthũngũ. Mahinda-inĩ maya kũrathiaga ũhoro ũyũ wa gũcenjanio gwa itĩ. Na ndirauga ũguo tondũ nĩ ngwenda kũraumu mũndũ, ndirauga ũguo tondũ nĩ wega rĩmwe kũigaga indo record. Ni gũtirĩ mũndũ ũhũrĩire thimũ atongoria aitũ a coalition ni gũtirĩ mũndũ ũrĩ bunge last week mĩario ikario maybe irakiegemana na niĩ ta mũndũ kĩũmbe. Njuge nĩ nyonete ndĩ mũtongoria ũngĩhota ndũgacokie ũru na ũru, ona ndũgacokie kĩrumi na kĩrumi. Koguo niĩ ndigũcokia ũru wa mũndũ na ũru, na ndigũcokia kĩrumi na kĩrumi kĩngĩ. Mahinda riria mahinda maheo mathaa mahinda mo mwenyewe ni mari anja tukwihoka tu o mundu hari ari ahinyie wira wake ugamagirira ona mita imwe ya gwa kabara koguo ni wega nie hakwa nie kiumbe nyonaga ni wega concentrate na mawira tondu wira niguo uguthie mahinda manene na wa muico biu nie ta Ndindi Nyoro ni joy biu kuma haria nie nyumite kuma family ria njiarirwo kuma maundu maria ndioneire na maitho ati nie Ndindi Nyoro ti hinya wakwa unginyetie haha na koguo ni ngoragwo ngimenya ona maundu mangi maingi ti micoro yakwa na ugi wakwa ugi uria guo ni Ngai uheanaga na ni uria ingioria mundu wothe uratwirorera ni kiria tuingioria mundu wothe muciari wakwa my brother my sister ni magatuhoyagira kaingi na nie mwene ngoria mahoyagire kaingi niguo ngatuaga matua maria maratwarana na uria Ngai angienda tondu riria watua matua ta macio